On this episode of South Thought Computing, we're going to be replacing an old garage door opener with a new one. And that's coming up next. Why can't you last until the spring? Just a standard disclaimer here, I'm not a handyman, so the way I'm doing it may not necessarily be the right way, but I like to learn to do new things. As always, take everything you see here with a grain of salt. If you screw something up because you copied me, that's your own fault. Hey, what's going on YouTube? Dan from South Thought Computing, and tonight we're going to be replacing this ancient LiftMaster, what do we got here? 41A4252-7A LiftMaster garage door opener from 1993. Basically, when you try to open this guy, it makes some horrible wobbling noise, and it's time to replace it. I saw a couple of videos to see if we could just swap out the motor. It looks entirely possible, but we really need to determine what's going on here because we might have to do the chain, as well as the sensors on the bottom that probably need to be replaced too for the newer system. Now with the replacement system, I didn't get anything crazy. Went to Lowe's and got their $130 garage door opener, the Chamberlain C203. So what are we gonna do first? Well, let's get this truck out of the way because the last thing we need to do is damage this, and let's see the wonderful noise that this garage door is making when we try to open. Okay, so just to show you what this thing is doing. Well, of course it would work that time, but it was a little slow on the uptake. Let's try to close the garage. No motion at all. So this is supposed to be the closed position. As you can see, nothing even happened. So what we're gonna do next is close it up and swap out the motor, or see if we can at least do that. Okay, so step one, find the power and unplug it. Now that the power is unplugged, the objective here is to get the two bolts on here. So one and actually two more on the other side here, 1 and 2, that support the garage door opener. But before we can do that, we want to make a note of what wires are going where and which ones are red. Let's find some colored electrical tape so we can at least know which are which. So this way it'll make our life a little bit easier. Okay, so before I disconnect anything, just showing you what I did here. For the red one, I put some red tape. White, I'm not doing anything. And for the black, I am just putting it on blue. And now I'll disconnect all 3 cables and start working on the bolts. I should also mention that what I'm going to do is rest it on the top of my ladder here, making sure that I position it a little further forward than directly underneath it, because it's gonna tend to move in that direction when I unbolt it from the ceiling mounts there. And crossing my fingers, here we go. Now, before I decide to take that garage door opener and put it down into the top here of the ladder, so there's a couple things I'm gonna do here. I'm going to loosen that nut and screw so it loosens the chain so I could get it off the gear on the top of the garage door opener. And I'm also gonna remove the pin which is connected to the door here. So this way I have some flex. So this track essentially is going to come down when I unhinge it from the support on the top. And I'll show you in a second. But again, so I'm going to remove this little thing here. Doing this one-handed might be a little difficult. Okay, that's taken out. Take the pin out. Perfect, that's exactly what we wanted. So here's the bolt that I was referring to. We're gonna loosen this up so it loosens up the chain so we get some slack, and we can remove it off the motor of the garage door opener. Okay, so now that the chain is loosened up, I'm gonna take this cover off, and we're gonna remove the chain off the motor. So obviously this is gonna get a little messy. Here's to hoping second time is the charm. I apparently did not loosen the chain enough. This is gonna need 2 fingers. I'll be back. Okay, the chain was more difficult than I thought to remove, but basically once I got it loosened enough, I rotated this little gear here, so one at a time, one click at a time, I was able to remove the chain off of there. I wasn't able to just pull it off and remove it. Next up is the bolts. 1 here, 2 on this side, and only 1 on the other. Okay, the nuts on the bolts have been removed. Now we're going to remove the bolts and lower the old garage door opener down. Well, looks like I underestimated how far in it was going to come at that angle. So I'm just going to move the table slightly more up and let's see how we remove this garage door opener from the actual truck. I feel a little bit more safer on that, and wow, it looks pretty simple here. 1, 2 bolts, and we're going to be able to remove this old garage door opener from the track. So let's do it. That seemed pretty painless. Let's open up the new one now. So the good news is the newer one has a similar coloring scheme. Now basically my only concern is whether or not the sensors that go to the bottom of this unit need to be replaced as well. I'm going to try it with the original ones just to see what happens. Hopefully they work. This model also came with 1 remote as well as all the accessories and also the switch to manually control it with inside the garage here. Now again, my hope here is to reuse the rail as well as the chain and all the other hookups that go to the top here. So it's just less work to do. So hopefully it'll be an even Steven swap out. Let's get the new guy hooked in and let's see where we get. So the good news is these mounting bolts match up to the previous rail. So great, we're in a good positive direction here. So next up, I guess I'll try to get the chain onto the little gear here. Well, that was relatively easy. Now it's time to add the tension back to the chain by screwing this guy inward to where it was previously and to make sure that we barely have any slack on the chain. So after I had gotten the chain nicely secured to the gear here, lo and behold, there was an additional piece on this guy that it was not on the old one called the chain spreader. Public service announcement, always read the directions that comes with your brand new unit. Alrighty, so the chain spreader is in, the chain is actually tensioned, so now we're going to try to get this sucker right back up where it was with the bolts. Okay, so next up, we're gonna put the red with the red, this white with the first one, this white with the second one, or second white, and the blue with the black. And there you go. Red, white, white, and black. And now let's do a dry run without moving the garage, because I'm getting a little nervous since this is the first time I've done this. All right, let's do our dry run. Let's hook it up back to the door and see what we get. And now, time for the final showing. Remotes. So oddly enough, I didn't have to replace the sensors that came with the original garage door opener. One less thing I had to do, which is fine by me. But, however, I did have to install the manual door opener that came with the system. The old doorbell that was hooked up no longer worked for some strange reason. I did have to manually adjust the height with the programming button here for the top level and lowest level of the door when it's opening and closing. So bear in mind, you will have to adjust that when you set it up. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you like what you see here, give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, join our forums. It will be greatly appreciated. This is Dan from Southall Computing, and until the next time.